He said he's got it.
Okay. Trustee reports, we are planning a board retreat June 11th and 12th. It'll be from 5:30 to 8:30 each evening. I would like to discuss the location, just from talking to a couple of the board members as far as time. Did you look at the other location? Are you pretty set on
Well, I went out there,
that one?
went around it today, told them to look at it,
Okay.
so. And it's.
How long did it take you to get out there?
It is, Stephanie can tell me, I may drive fast if I'm wrong, I'd say 13 minutes.
Oh, it's not as far as I thought it
No, you
was.
go to the church and go shop.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's
We're
just,
good.
it's just past the church. It's not
Planning
like a couple
Medicine
of
Rocks
miles.
Lodge
Okay, and
Yeah,
at
First category.
5:30 to 8:30?
each evening.
Okay.
Yep. And I guess I would like to know, are you gonna be there both nights?
Am I?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I can commit to one.
Which one do you know?
Either one.
Are you gonna be able to
Yeah.
come both nights?
Yeah.
Reno's good. Are you keeping this note?
Yeah.
Phoebe, are you able? The 12th. Sam said yes on both nights. I didn't get a chance to ask Mike.
Mike, when I sent it out, it said yes on both nights, but
Okay,
I will try for both nights.
Dave said both nights.
well, if she's coming the 12th, make sure you come the 12th. We're just trying to, if we have things that we really want to hit on, we want to make sure and do it when everybody's there.
We really want you on both nights,
We do.
and there's food,
I'll be cooking,
I like the
barbecuing.
so there.
I can't say anything about anything but clean, but
So do we need to bring stuff in?
that's a good idea. I'll make the meat. Everybody bring
That's-
something.
What's the meat?
Hamburgers.
Hamburgers and ribs. Hamburgers one night, ribs the other night.
Have ribs the 12th.
You'll have ribs the 12th because Phoebe wants ribs.
Okay, I'll make a couple of desserts and a like potato salad or something like that. Some kind of salad.
Just remember, there's 8 of us total, not.
Oh, I'm cooking for Brandon all week. That
Okay.
doesn't scare me.
I think he was meaning like.
There's only 8 of us.
Don't make it for
Like,
20.
The what you just said, I'm like, wow. wait, I don't
I'm
know where
hoping-
you got that.
That this will be a time for growth and that we can come up with new ideas and learn how to do our job better. Mr. Cafferty can word it a lot more colorfully.
No, I mean, it's a good process to have, to do, to really try to get in a habit of doing it every year. Kind of lay out a vision or get the board on the same page, talk through things that have, as far as the grants, different things that are happening, all those pieces, just a relaxed setting that's not solving all the world's problems, but just so we're all on the same page.
Are we meeting at the school and take all riding and swerving out there?
We can do it either or.
So we can figure that out when it gets closer. I guess it's not that far.
I mean, Lisa's gonna have to be out there early, cause like, I don't know, 2 and start cooking.
I don't think the climate survey is shut down yet. Stefan and I thought it'd be good to wait till July and we'll go over it then because July is when we work on goals and priorities. So we thought that would be a good time to bring that in and see what we can improve on. And that was it. Next board meeting is
We had a special meeting at the end of the month. There are a few
the
things.
23rd.
I said just the week of the 23rd, so I
Oh.
don't know. 23rd, I believe, was a Monday.
It is.
So I'll make sure you guys have that week. We'll have some district attendance agreements, transportation contracts, and then some end of year, like property liability I haven't got yet, which I should have.
Does anybody have a problem with the 23rd?
I can't be.
When can you be here that week?
I can't be here the 23rd and the 24th or the 25th.
I
I'm
am
on arrange days. In my city.
Oh, yeah.
much happier with these Monday meetings than Tuesday meetings, I will tell you that much.
That makes one of us.
I would, any
Do
day
you
but
have
Tuesday.
anything that
No.
conflicts?
It could be Thursday, it could be Sunday.
Do you want to
just not Monday.
tentatively set it for the 23rd? I know
Tuesday.
we won't have Phoebe, but it sounds like she has quite a few days that are.
Yep.
And we'll check and make sure we can
23rd.
get a quorum.
What are you gonna do at that meeting?
I have obsolete items that needs to go. We have to do district out attendance agreements, so our kids that come from Baker or wherever else. And then we have transportation contracts, individual transportation contracts, and property liability insurance. And on those 4 things.
6 o'clock.
Should be fairly quick, it's just year-end process stuff that didn't get, was too early for this one. I don't have anything that I can have yet.
Okay.
Let's move this one up.
Superintendent report?
Pretty low key, other than, I mean, good stuff. On last Friday, we received word that we received the Montana Reads grant. We were one of 37 schools to receive that out of 113 schools eligible for that. And the grand total for that will be $1,011,000. It's a 5-year grant, but it's actually a 4 and 2 month year grant. Let's just call it what it is. And so we wrote that grant with some pretty specific reading focus. Obviously, it's the reading grant, but within that reading grant, there's also, well, for lack of a better way to say it, a behavior focus, but with attendance and different pieces built into that as well. So what that looks like, have a meeting with teachers on Tuesday to talk about Jumpstart and talk about that as well. That we will start implementing that over the next 4 years, and it's pretty amazing for our kids. And it's going to be a ton of professional development that, you know, most teachers coming out of school, doesn't matter what grade level, whether they're elementary or high school, don't really get as much in detail reading instruction training. And as we know, educationally speaking, if a kid can read and write at grade level, then all parts of education become much easier, period. If a kid can't read or write at grade level, then all parts of education become much more difficult, and you spend their entire educational career trying to catch them up. So just super excited about this, just an amazing opportunity for our kids and community and that. And so, they're finalizing, they released that on Friday. They sent us like a tentative budget sheet that we just had to, because I had already had all your signatures on it. So they will send our finalized information this week or next week or whatnot. So pretty exciting. I'm not pretty exciting. Like, I don't know when we can talk about $1 million being injected into professional development for our staff. We haven't. And so I'm super, super excited for our kids and community. It's just going to be a good thing. Jumping, if anybody got any questions on that before I move on?
I just want to say thank you, because that was a really long application. You put a lot of time into that. It's lengthy.
I am going to insert one thing on the maintenance, just so you guys are all aware of it when you see it coming at you, probably in that June budget, or potentially we'll have a phone meeting before that. We're looking at buying a lawnmower. You can fix a lawnmower a lot of times, but eventually you start to spend as much time fixing it as you do actually working, doing those things. And so we're looking at trying to find a good lawnmower. We visited with the town and visited with Cameling and just getting some ideas on what are good ones. In our house fund, as far as we're allowed to carry over $10,000 a year in that, or we're over by $4,500 right now. So there's $4,500 in that account that we have to spend on maintenance of the properties that we can use for that. So we will most likely, we'll use that, but we'll pay for just so you know, when you see that, why we're buying a lot more. To make our,
So
go ahead.
does that work when in our lease agreements,
Yes.
the leases have to mow their own lawn?
But we have all the property between them.
Okay,
And our
just
elementary
asking,
use them.
just make sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Then the rest of the stuff's all eliminating.
Does anybody have any questions about any of the other reports? Branson, you're the only one here. Do you have anything to add to what you wrote in here? Okay. Thank you. And, is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Any public comment? Public comment? Move to old business. Handbook approval, activity and student.
So we didn't feel like we spent enough time on handbooks the last 2 board meetings that we wanted to bring them back for just one more full, no, kidding. But the beauty of having the office staff look them over before we even started thinking about printing them, we just, there was a mild oversight of 2 pieces that were left out of there, one about the cafeteria and communicable diseases, so we just need to, those have not been printed, those things that are in front of you are not changes, they just need to be added.
Is there any board discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2 sections as presented for the activity and student handbook.
I second it.
Stefan made the motion to approve the 2 sections as presented in the activity and student handbook. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Stefan, board comment? Stefan made the motion to approve the 2 sections as presented in the activity and student handbook. Phoebe second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Calendar and MOU.
So calendar is in front of you, calendar committee met last week and that agreed upon calendar is in the packet in front of you. So,
And Carol saved the day.
Yeah. Coming up with
Yeah.
something make everybody happy. Solution, I should say.
Who all was on that calendar committee?
Rena and I,
And Sam?
it's Carol, Sam,
Sam.
So
Carol.
they're all here
Was there
except for
another
Sam and Carol.
teacher?
Amari Carr.
Oh,
And
Oh.
Shioko, Amari Carr and Shioko.
So,
That's right. I knew there was more sitting here.
I mean, there was a pretty good consensus in the committee.
I think everybody
By the
agreed.
end,
We
yeah.
did,
By the end,
We did
everybody,
this.
everybody was,
we did some practicing of thumbs.
That's-
Is there any other board discussion?
How come you went to a 5-day week in May?
Graduation practice.
It worked
Good.
because
Oh,
graduation's
it's on
the
the
next day. They like, and we have
School.
awards that night and everybody's hearing around anyways.
Because it seemed like everybody was whining because we got brand in May, we can't have school in May, and now all of a sudden we got an extra day.
Go to school.
Just,
Go to school.
just saying.
Is there any public comment?
I have a question. When you make the motion, is it only involving the calendar, or will it include the MOU?
we'll probably do them separate.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Oh, sorry.
As I
It
have them
can-
together in the board pack, so you guys can
It's-
decide.
It's
Oh,
together,
it is
but you can do
together
it
in the
separate
board.
if you want to.
Oh, I see. It's an extra
So-
page.
I would
The next
prefer it
page.
separate.
Are we ready for a motion on the calendar?
Is there any other public comment? Any motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the calendar.
I'll second it.
Rena made the motion to accept the 25-26 calendar. Phoebe second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Stop that. Any other board comment? Rena made the motion to approve the calendar for the 25-26 year. Phoebe second motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. MOU. Is there any board discussion? Public comment?
I just have it back over there.
You should.
Go over
Yes,
there.
thank you. I always forget.
I'm just looking for clarification, because at the bottom, we agreed that. Turn on my speed on. We agreed that if it worked out, we would put it in the CBA. Will we have a meeting to have a consensus to whether we felt it worked out or not, or will it just be a decision? Will we have a committee meeting before we decide to officially put it in the CBA?
I think there will have to be a committee meeting.
It's got to be the IDB committee, because I think that's what's in a solution in the IDB minutes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
I'm pretty sure it's in Tracy's solution.
So can you make sure that what we just said is in the
I'll look
minutes?
it up.
Because I did look,
I mean,
shouldn't have sat down, but I did go back and look at the minutes, and it said it would be added, but I didn't think it had wording for consensus. Just said if it was vague, I guess. As to how it would be placed in.
It says include all of the solution MOU that sunsets in 1 year if successful as deemed by the MOU itself will be included in the CBA in 26-27.
so it doesn't specify.
It doesn't specify.
So is that something we can put in the motion is that,
Like committee or something.
I kind of feel like that was, yeah, I feel like that was
the IBB
just
committee?
that detail, yeah, I would say the IDB. Or I shouldn't say that, or the professional development committee.
So down here, like if deemed successful for the professional development
Yes,
committee,
should be that committee. Sorry.
it will be incorporated. So, yeah. So it does say that.
Yeah, it's in the MOU.
Just what?
In the MOU.
It's the last
The
line
last.
of the MOU.
If deemed successful for the professional development.
Guess I didn't go down far enough, thank you.
So that's agreed.
Is there any public comment? Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the MOU as presented.
I'll second it.
Stefan made the motion to approve the MOU as presented. Phoebe second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Any other board comment? Stefan made the motion to approve the MOU as presented. Phoebe second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business. Hiring considerations. Certified.
So we would recommend to hire Mrs. Melanie Kempton back. Just as a point of clarification, she had resigned. She did receive the $1,000 bonus for resigning before that time, but she returned that $1,000 bonus. And so anyway, just to make sure that there's that clarification, she did not.
Business.
She was in business, that her teaching assignment is still being fine tuned, so we may, because our math teacher has a strong background in business, and so her position is kind of being adapted right now, so. But it's a position we have to fill, so, that we need to fill.
Do you want to talk about Carolyn? Did you want to talk about Carolyn?
Just
Is there any board discussion?
I guess that was my question, was what position she was gonna be filling, because I knew that she'd resigned and was from the business, and then
And she taught technology, and she did a bunch of, she did a fair amount of technology at the elementary school. And so some of this plays into how we're building the schedule and not only where she'll be this year, but where she'll be next year. And so we can kind of down the road, because there's a specific facilitator position tied to the Montana Reads grant that by all accounts, by all pieces fits well with her background and skills.
So that discussion.
Is there any other discussion? Board comment? Sorry, public comment? Public comment? Any other boards comment? Motion?
I move to approve the hiring of Miss Kempton for teacher 25-26.
I second.
Stefan made the motion to approve Miss Kimpton for teacher 25-26 school year. Rena second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board comment? Stefan made the motion to approve Melanie Kimpton as a teacher for 25-26 school year. Rena second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Classified.
So you have 3 bus drivers there. I recommend hire them for the routes. And Kayla and Carol are going to be splitting a route. Mary Denny will be driving a full-time route.
Is there any board discussion?
Do we know which routes? I mean,
Yes.
Carol and Kayla are probably running the same one.
Yeah.
The Beaver Flats, and it was Mary doing Chocolate.
She joined Melanie's.
Yeah.
Any board discussion? Public comment? Public comment? I feel like I am just reaching. Is there a motion?
I move to hire the route drivers.
I second.
DB made the motion to hire the classified hires as presented for the 25-26 school year. Rena second the motion. All those, public comment. Public comment? DB made the motion to hire classified hires as presented for the 25-26 school year. Rena second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Extracurricular hires.
So in front of you, you have the list of all of the extra. We're still trying to find one person for our junior high volleyball, but on your list in front of you, you don't have in there, but it should have been in there, Kendall Shepherd for the assistant volleyball coach. And so just make sure that's added in there, but the rest of them, Rusty Spencer, junior high football coach, Kayla Olson, head girls, Jaren Clouder, assistant girls, Jeremy Fry, head boys, Nick, assistant boys, high school, Jit, junior high girls, Nick, junior high boys, and Rodney Walker as athletic director.
I went to the bus routes.
There you go.
Kendall Shepherd for assistant.
Same as last year.
So Gwen was our.
Gwen-
Glenn's already hired.
We hired
Who was-
Glenn and
who was our-
Timidor.
Who's the high school volleyball coach before?
Glenn.
Glenn,
This is the assistant.
the assistant, and then junior high.
Right, who was.
We don't have a
junior high
Junior
before?
high was Mr. Montemillo's, and he's
That was-
turning home.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about high school.
No, it's like the. Who had it? Oh, we have no applications for it?
For which one?
Junior high one.
Junior high.
We have one application currently. Well, let me rephrase that. We have one application and one of our foreign teachers has expressed interest in that. And so letting them navigate some of their piece of work before trying to lock them down for an interview. So we do have, in essence, 2 applicants for that.
So for the assistant coaches for the junior high, do the coaches get to choose who that is, or do we vote on that, or how does that work? That's not a paying position.
So we have no positions for that, so those are all volunteer assistants. And so they, in essence, the coaches do get to choose that, but they have to go through their background check and they have to be approved. Not by us, I mean, by me in a sense, but they have to be approved to be legally around them.
Volunteer list, don't they?
Correct,
They
yeah.
have to be out of
So
volunteer.
it comes to the board as volunteer list, but if they're not already on it.
Mhm.
Is there any other board discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
Back to board discussion, sorry. I guess, how did the interview with Rodney? My concern is time. Like that AD position takes a lot more time than what you would think.
For sure.
So, and I know like he's a pretty busy man as it is, unless
So-
he's scaling back on stuff.
I don't ever want to determine whether somebody's busy or not, because everybody lives there. So Lisa, myself, and Kayla were on that interview. And so, yeah, I mean, no, I laid out, we had a long conversation about those things, but I don't know that, I mean, I feel like time, he understands the time piece of it. And I mean, again, part of that conversation is have to do the job or want to do the job. And so it's amazing how we find time
When you want to do
for
something.
the things we want to do. And so
Because the
that's
love
where
of
we came back.
sports.
Well, and I wasn't
But-
concerned about sports because he loves sports. He loves going to the games. He likes traveling and stuff. I was more the time it takes on phones and the phone and setting up the refs and
And that's something we talked about, like everything is done electronically anymore. He seemed very willing to learn how to do that. And it sounds like there's a plan of helping him learn how to do that. And I learned some of the jobs that the ADs did were not necessarily jobs ADs have to do, but they do have to find somebody to do them, like all the bookkeeping and whatnot.
That was my concern.
Well, and didn't Amy and Carol say rest pretty much taken care of so far, unless things change?
This year,
they
Right.
did for this
So-
year. But I would like I'm always looking at longevity. Past just 1 year. So.
and maybe with that piece taken care of, it won't be so much to learn all at once.
to learn the transition into it.
I think coaches probably get the most criticism of anybody, but last year it seemed like people were really, really happy with the coaches. I probably heard more criticism towards the junior high basketball coach, not from my family, but from other people. And one thing that was brought up was one of the grade school girls was practicing and sitting in on the high school girls' games or practices. And I guess somebody said, is that open to anybody, or is that something the AD should take care of, or?
So 2 parts I'll kind of address with the same thing there. Part of a process with all of our coaches is, looking as we kind of went down the path of developing job descriptions for everybody, including our athletic directors, including our coaches, including all of our paid positions. With that then becomes a conversation on how can you do your job better. And so are we having those conversations about what does practice look like? What are we doing? What are we, trying to coach our coaches is part of our AD's job. And so that is one of my priorities this year with hiring a new AD, is making sure and don't mistake that as telling coaches what to do, but saying, okay, well, what are we thinking about like at junior high, for example? Are we getting all the kids in the game? What is practice looking like? Are we, as the AD in the practice, are all kids participating? How are we treating kids? At the high school level, what does this look like? What's our goal for the next 2 years? Participation numbers. What does our practices look like? How do we give our coaches a chance to get professional development as far as coaches clinics or bring coaches to us to work with them. So I will say, not specific to any one of our programs, but all of our programs, we no different than our teaching staff or myself. I mean, if we're not improving, then we're just fluttering along. And so we need to do a better job of that.
So any more in discussion? Is there any public comment? I thought I had. Because
You did, but then I interrupted before
Okay.
we had our motion, so.
Got Is there a motion?
Moving too
I
fast.
move to hire the coach, just as presented.
Just the coaches?
No, the whole thing.
Extracurricular.
The extracurricular hiring considerations, with the Kindle stuck in it.
With the Kindles. With the Kindle. Is there a second?
I am very professional.
I know.
I second it.
Phoebe made the motion to hire all coaches and AD as presented. Rena second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Any board comment? Phoebe made the motion to hire the coaches and AD as presented, including Kendall Shepherd. Rena second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent, no, extended contracts.
So we have 2 extended contracts. Mr. Ford will be working with the student in class time and prep time, approximately 3 days. So she'll be breaking that into 90-minute chunks over the course of the year, over the course of the summer. So that's that piece. Mr. Whitney we've had a great conversation about we're not going to be able to rebuild our shop in the sense of tear down and build a brand new building yet. But if you have walked through our shop in the last multiple years, there's a major safety concern with the shop because you cannot see across the shop. So you can have students working you can be in one part of the shop and have students working by saws or welding or whatnot, and able to see them. And then overall space design, it's interesting thought process when you put a tool shed in the middle of the room, basically. Which don't know why, can't say that, but those tools are going to be placed on the wall and they can be locked up along the wall, shelving cases then we have a much more, we can have a setup where we've got woods on this side and shop on that side, and with the intent of getting more kids in and out of the shop and making it first and foremost a more safe environment, but a more usable environment for our kids. And in visiting with him, we looked at how long it would take and came to the agreement of we'd talk about hours, but basically 5 days of extended contract.
Any discussion?
He answered my question about Miss DeFord. It says defraud in there.
Yeah, it does say.
Right. But I had a question about Mr. Whitney. Is there's some big heavy stuff? Is he gonna have any help to move that, or what's the plan there?
So, yes, he will have as much help as, I mean, I've been made myself available to him. It's just, tearing the initial stuff down, but the plan truly is to maybe get the maintenance team in there to do some painting, because we're not gonna tear the shop apart, and it's naturally dusty and dirty, but, yeah, he knows that he can ask for help, myself or whoever else, and talked about FFA being involved in that, but I'm gonna leave that up to him to build his master lab.
Well, if he thinks he can get it done in 40 hours, that's on him. That's all I have.
Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move that we extend the contract to Seth Whitney and Celeste Ford.
I second it.
Rena made the motion to extend the contract to Seth Whitney and Celeste Ford for the summer of 2025. Phoebe seconded the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Any other board comment? Phoebe made Rena made the motion to extend contracts to Seth Whitney and Celeste Ford for the summer of 2025. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent contract.
If we, I don't know if we are, but if we are to agree on what we left in the work session before that, as far as 9.5 and the rest of the contract we have set there, with days and all that, I would throw out, and obviously I think most of you figured out that I'm never gonna look at a problem the same way everybody else does. And so in doing that, I think you have to create some opportunities there as well. So I would propose to add in there, based on our conversation, that whether it's 1% or 0.5%, that you add a piece in that any new grant written, that there can be a 0.05 or 0.1, it should be a 1% added in there, that not salaries, but would be, that you could write into the grant as potentially superintendent bonus or what.
Can you
Expand
say
on
that again?
Okay, so I'll just put it in as plain a terms as you can. So it would basically say, any grant written and received by the school district, superintendent would receive, could write into the grant 0.1% for salary, for bonus.
Right into the grant.
Correct. So it's never a line coming off of our budget. And most grants have administrative fees written into those. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm bad or good at that. Well, maybe I won't, I'll go the other way. I think I'm pretty solid at that. And finding money for the school district. And so, in its own way, it's labor intensive, and having the resources to connect with the right people to continue to generate those money. And I have no way of knowing. I may write 100 grants next year, and we may get none of them. But I'm gonna keep looking for them.
So that money comes straight from the grant you received.
You talked about that when we.
I vaguely remember
Yeah.
that when we were negotiating before you came, right?
I mean,
We talked about something with grants.
and when we talked about a lot of it, but that piece in particular, I think then you're protecting the district, and there's no commitment. So if there's a grant written next year for $10,000, but then nothing a year after that,
It's not coming from
No.
that fund.
There would be no guaranteed money that have to be written into the grant.
It's only fair, you're doing work.
Hmm?
It's only fair, you're doing work, and if grants are have an administrative fee, you should get it.
how does that work right now? Does anybody get that, or where does it go,
We
or
just-
you just don't have it?
We essentially
period?
write it into, like incidental things. It doesn't go directly to. And some grants, let's be clear, some grants are specific that there can be no personnel cost in. So, on those ones, you're not, you still get those and go from there. But
I'm trying to remember our discussion on this, because we did discuss it. And I don't remember what our holdup was.
I don't think we understood that it came out of the grant.
Oh, I did.
I didn't.
I did, but there was something else.
What was the reason we
Oh,
didn't?
maybe
What
it
the
was
reason?
there because, I'm not saying you don't do all the work in the grant, but say you got help from Brittany or Misty or anything, then how to break up, oh, you get
How does it make,
0.1
make it fair?
0.1% and they don't get anything, or 0.1, do we like 0.05%, somebody else gets 0.05. It's like, can get messy, but I'm not saying that you don't do 99% of work on some of the grants. That's not my question. I think that was part of our discussion before when it was brought up. Or I'm crazy. I don't know. It's just something to consider. You could tell me more than I can.
Well, I
what
mean,
that process
I
entails
just
and what
look at it and,
was
I mean,
written so far.
I think through all the grants we've written this year, and there's always, depending on how you build it, depending on what you're doing, there's always extra components, but somebody's got to be the lead on it. Somebody's got to take. I mean, let's go down the path of the Montana Region for just, and we're probably, I mean, that's a 5-year. We're not going to get that for another 5 years, but I mean, that was a 37-page grant that. I mean, did I meet with the teachers on that? I met with a group of teachers and met with them for a couple hours. Did Brittany plug that into take the numbers and plug it into the budget? Absolutely. They did that. But I mean, so if you're, I don't want to say that it's 99% to 1 or 98 to 2 or 95 to 5. But if you don't have somebody that's always looking for those and keeping an eye on those, what I do know is, to be totally fair to our teachers, they will never have the time, nor do I want them, that they'll never have the time to be able to be spending the hours on that. That's not necessarily their job. Brittany, again, probably not her wheelhouse, or that she's going to spend all her time outside of work working. And then I do think there's a component of you get lucky, whatever, how you're checking. Do I have resources that maybe not everybody has as far as when it comes to writing grants? Probably. And do I try to leverage those as best I can for the district? Absolutely. So, I mean,
Did you keep note of what we worked on or what we came up with in
In your work
session?
session? Yep.
Okay. So I think the only thing we didn't come to an agreement on was how the salary was gonna work.
Well, Stefan came up with the last idea on that, and then we left it.
yeah, and then DB added to it. So you're at 95 and you go to over the next 3 years, then you get to the end goal.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have no memory.
I
I guess-
remember talking about, stepping over the course of the contract instead of, I didn't really say like a total or a number, I didn't think. Maybe.
Well, and then she said go by 5s until we,
And I thought we were going by 5s by what it was.
82.
Yeah. Is there any discussion?
Wipes, goodness.
I look at all three of you that are here. Is there any public comment?
Just to clarify, when you say by fives, you go 82.5 to 87.5, then to 92.5, then is that what you were meaning?
Well, we're gonna start like at 90, and then go 95 or 95.
Over the next, till 2027?
Yep.
When you have to renegotiate
We
again?
just need to just know our starting number.
Correct, we're trying to come up with something so there was no renegotiations till.
2027.
Till the contract.
Kind of like we do with our contract for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
He would get this much this year, this much next year, and then in 2027, you come back to the table.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
It's okay, I keep forgetting to tell you to go there, so. We should just set the mic right here.
So with the grant thing, do we have to put that in your contract, or can't you just put that in as your administrative fee when you apply for the grants?
I don't know.
Or do we
I
have,
think you have to put that into the
it
grant.
has to be in the
I think you have to put that in the contract,
contract? You can't just do that?
because that would be just like,
Well, that's what I wondered.
That'd be
Just
like if you just be like, oh, I got that one out.
hey,
That's
that's great, I'm gonna just take that off the top.
Gotcha.
So we're not actually voting on the contract tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
it's off the contract.
The terms of the contract.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
The dates are done from January,
Yeah,
but
the
the
payments.
terms are. No. And I mean, the contract was to 2026, so we don't necessarily have to do anything, but I don't think that's going to satisfy either.
So if we do what Phoebe says, go to 90 and then go by fives, is that good with you?
If we start at 90?
Well, I like your number better, but I really like 95 better, because that puts us up the end goal and by the time the contract's up.
And give you the grant thing?
Yeah.
You like that? You want you happy?
Well,
Maybe.
no, I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think that's reasonable compared to all things that have gone on this year. I think 95 and 5 over the next 3 years.
To start at 90 this year and then go to 95 next year?
Well, I would start at 90, I mean,
And give you the grant thing and start at 90?
I'm just, I mean, honestly, I'd rather, I mean, I think it's more fair to start at 95 and go from there.
I guess why I came up with the 92 was and you brought up about you're doing the superintendent and the principal job both, but the average salary across Montana this last year was 92. So I guess that's why I kind of jumped on that number.
I don't know if I can share, one of the board members gave me their 2 cents on this, but they're not here, so I don't know if I can share that or not.
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
Well,
I don't
just
know.
don't say their name.
Just don't say their name. Give us
So
a
another
number.
option is to accept all of the things and give them a $5,000 raise. But that doesn't even get to 90. Well, not
Okay.
including days that
Say
we
we-
discussed.
Say we go with what? You said
Rena?
about 92.5, and then we're taking the $200 rents, basically it is 95, you know, with taking away the utilities bills, and we're covering it, so it's still a significant pay increase in 1 year. I mean, that's like how I look at it, is just 1 year to the next. I have a hard time seeing a massive jump. Not saying we didn't do a lot for the school, but it's like, it's easier to swallow over the course of the contract versus such a large jump in 1 year. But It's just,
So I guess my only discussion on that would be, we all have to take, you had a walking interview this year. I mean, you guys had to take a leap of faith last year, and there was some hesitation, for whatever reason, and that's great, and I appreciate that. So in the sense of meeting that middle ground or whatever, saying, okay, I'm not gonna say you got a free year, but I felt very confident about my abilities to lead and do what we're gonna do in this district. And so I don't look at it, I guess I don't look at it as a large jump. I look at it as, you got a chance to test run the car, and now you're deciding if it's worth leading for the next how many ever years in the future. And I don't want to discredit the average salary. I don't want that, and I won't take that. But I will come back to, there's absolutely nothing average about what we've done this year. And so there's lots of superintendents you can get that are going to, and you can look back on your own superintendents that are going to sit in the job and do the job, quote unquote, as the typical principal or superintendent, and they're not going to look at it as, how can we improve the school? How can we do this? They're looking at it as a step to the next place. They're looking at it as, so I'm going to do the job from 8 to 5. That's not me. And so, I absolutely understand our budget. I'm probably as good as anybody in the room. If we want a typical superintendent, then we're gonna get typical results, and we're gonna go down the typical path. And that's on me.
Did we ask for public comment yet?
Clerk Lady? Did I ask for public comment yet?
Because you guys just have your board discussion.
Is there any public comment?
I don't know, I guess I'll go stand over here. I know, I kind of agree with Stefan where he says that that's a huge jump. I mean, we always get talked, the budgets are tight, teachers got a 3%, which is more than we normally get, but we're still at the bottom of our salary. STARS Act is helping that, but your veteran teachers don't get that big leap that your young teachers get. And I would say $10,000 is an awful big leap in salary, especially if he's asking to reduce his work days by 2. That's my understanding. I could be wrong in what I understood where he says reduce by 2. I missed part of that conversation. And I guess, he does a great job in some areas, but I honestly didn't see him in my room very often. And nothing against him. I know superintendents get busy. A lot of superintendents have good intentions of coming and visiting every classroom once a week. I would have to say that did not happen in my classroom. I can't speak for the other teachers or things like that. And I don't know if it's because I was a veteran teacher, he knew I was retiring and maybe I didn't need it. But I'm also on staff and I would have benefited also from visits to him. So that's just my personal opinion, so.
Is there any other public comment? Do you want to say something, Brian?
I strongly agree with Stefan. You're gonna have a huge problem if you jump a pace rate that much in 1 year. That is a good thing to know that the average means is 92,000 public. That's already a $10,000 raise, like we're talking. I don't get up here to make things personal, but my child has suffered in the conditions in this school with some of the policies, and I brought it to the attention of the administration. It happened like 3 weeks later. So maybe he hasn't been in every classroom as much as he should have. So consider that, because it's gonna be a hard pill to swallow if you don't quit huge pay raise.
Is there any other public comment? Board discussion? Motion? We would have to set the percent as far as a grant, or is that dictated per grant on their own? Like a portion that you would
If
get?
with the contract that you were able to apply or put so much into a grant, do we have to say a percentage, or would we just have to approve that you can put an administrative?
Collect
cost
the-
on it?
You can do it either way. You probably wanna do a percentage.
What are the grants usually?
Usually grants are anywhere from 5 to 10% of your administrative and personnel fees, but that's where.
Yeah, the state blocks this out. The indirect rate for state grants is set. I don't know about federal ones. No, ours, state one is 6%.
Is the max?
Is
that
our
you
max that you're allowed to. So like there's some grants we don't pull it from because we need it all for whatever we're using it for. But they set your state rates. It's called indirect cost rate, which is set by the DM.
And you always put something in there, but then that money just doesn't really.
Not always. So in the past, we've used indirect cost rates to pay for like my work that goes into the grant if we've been low in general funds. So for the last couple
So
of years,
that-
we've had to have, like title's a good example, but we've had to use all the title funds, not this year, but previous years, like to pay for that aid and supplies when the title funds have been really low. So there was no reason to have indirect cost rate then, because then it's paying me and then robbing somebody else to pay them, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are years that there is extra, we write it in because we don't need all of the. We don't have some allocation for all of the grant money here. Title's a little different because title you're allocated so much, you're not writing it for $1 million. Usually they say, here's your numbers and this is what you get, and so it's a little different than writing a grant.
And what did you say you thought was a fair percentage on that?
I would say 1%, but
1% of the grant total.
I guess back to the salary, another thing I think of is, if it was just us, it wouldn't bother me at all. But we represent our community and we have to go back to them.
Answer to.
And, I brought up the extreme payment in the past of some employees, and that's because there was such public outrage at that. And people were angry over it, that the board would continue to. So, we kind of have to represent all people, and still, I think you deserve a raise. Can't be that big.
I was just doing math.
I saw you doing that.
I was like, I don't know, 7,500 a year through the end of the contract, get you close to your final asking number. 105 instead of
Which was
102.5, I guess.
So you would do this contract, which say 90 and then 97.5.
And then add in a clause for percentage on grants. I think that would be easier for people to swallow than going 95 to that 110, 15, 20, or 105, 110. Tired.
So you start at, repeat what you said.
This
just so I make
year-
sure I-
95, 96 would be 90, and 97.5, and then, well,
Can't go through your, the only two.
Oh,
Year
no.
25,
Oh, yeah.
26,
I keep
26,
thinking
27.
it's a 3-year contract, but we're already done with 1 year. So,
I mean, you're setting yourself up for that though. But
Yeah.
that's this terms of this contract would be 90,000 and then 97.5 for salary. Is what he's
but
saying.
then adding in also the grant clause.
And with the,
Because if we did 1%, that would still leave 5.6% or whatever
That we could still write
that we
for.
could still write for indirect costs. With
And-
that,
And those are not only allowable within those grants, which is state, I think it's state after that. So there's probably some grants that we write that are not those that have their own administrative costs.
because that's 5.6 is just for state or
I think it's 6.73,
6.6.
I think is what we're approved for, something like
I think as far as the compensation, then we discussed with, like at the end with successful evaluation.
So you want to take
Right.
like the days down to 130? Or you gonna leave the days, just take 2
No.
off or?
Take 2 off each.
I like to take 2 off, and then
Like 5 off?
this, the way I'm looking at it is this, if we do it this way, then it just, if we extend the contract or add on it, we can just keep rolling with it, and then we'll just have to put a cap on days and salary.
I get what you
But right now, we're obviously only discussing this contract, so like, but that's, my mind is working ahead. and thinking that if you have like those steps in there, just kind of like the teacher steps, it's gives you something to think 5, 10 years down the road, even though your contract's only for the next 2.
So when we vote on this is final. Does it go then to our lawyer before it's all totally done?
that. I can send that to them for wording if that's what you
Just-
guys are wanting for clarification.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
all.
they've seen the rest of the contract, so I can just send them the
No,
new
I just
wording.
mean, like, yeah, what we're adding in there to make sure it is,
Like the grant
Acceptable.
part would be
I already
one
chat GPT'd it.
look at you go.
Should I Gemini'd it?
Is there, I don't, anybody have any other thoughts on those numbers, or anybody got like,
I think that's good.
Phoebe?
I'm looking to see if he's smiling or not.
The part about a negotiation is you're probably not gonna smile at the end of negotiation. I mean, you gotta get to a midpoint.
everybody's gonna be a little bit
It is.
unhappy and happy at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, there's a compelling argument. I mean, as she said when we had the meeting, and she was talking about the bond passing, we're one of the few schools in the state. One of the few schools in the state that got grants like we did. I mean, there's a lot of things that were not the average, and so is it as my dad would say, is it better than nothing or better than a kick in the pants? It is. Is it truly maybe fair value? I don't know. I don't know if it is or not, but it's better than nothing. And I will always argue for anybody's contract having stepped built into it, because that drives them. Because it's just simply moving over on a salary schedule or getting another year and is how you get a raise. That never pushes people enough.
Can you read us what you have?
Total or just the grant portion?
Each part that we're changing
Okay, did we
would be
settle
good.
on the 90 and the 97.5 then? That's what we're thinking, so if that's what we're thinking, contract 25-26 would be $90,000, contract 26-27 would be $97,500. There'd be a 238-day contract for 25-26 and a 236-day contract for 26-27. Remove the pain of utilities monthly, reimbursement of $150 per college credit upon the completion, like it says in there, the terms for 2 years, being committed to the district. And then if you guys wanna add the grant piece, this is what AI came up with. In recognition of efforts to secure additional funding for the district, the superintendent shall be eligible for a bonus equal to 1% of the total grant amount awarded to the district for any grant written and secured by the superintendent, provided that such grant includes administrative fees. The bonus shall be payable within 30 days of the district's receipt of grant funds, subject to verification by the board that the grant was authored and co-authored by the superintendent and includes administrative fees allocable, if that worked, to the district. This bonus shall be in addition to the superintendent's regular salary and shall not exceed, if you wanted to, an annual unless otherwise approved by the board. You guys don't have to add that part, it added in it, so.
I think you can take out the last
Yeah, I don't think
part.
that.
So as long as it's co-author or authored by the superintendent, includes administrative fees allocable to the district.
I've never written a grant before, so I
It's
guess
not fun.
to those who have written grants, does that sound good?
You wanna add to it?
Just like. And then when you did the compensation part, did you put that with successful evaluation?
Hold on a second, let me go up these two. I said raises based on satisfactory or above evaluation.
Does that sound good? Okay. Was there any other changes? Okay, is there any public comment? Brian? Do you want to step to the podium?
So most of these, like, I've been around in like banking industry or grant writing fees, he's being very generous on, most of them are 2 to 2.5%. So, I mean, that's awesome if he's happy with 1%, as far as I'm concerned. But just so you know, most like banking fees are anywhere between 2 and 2.5. So thank you for that number.
Any other public comment? Is there any other board discussion? Motion?
I don't wanna say all that.
How about you wanna give you that line? I was typing already. Move to approve superintendent contract with the negotiated items as discussed. Have all those listed.
What she said.
What she said. I move to approve the superintendent contract with the negotiation as discussed.
I'll second that.
Stefan made the motion
Negotiations as discussed.
to approve the superintendent's contract with the negotiations as discussed. The second motion, is there any public comment? Public comment? Board comment? Stefan made the motion to approve. Approve the superintendent's contract with the negotiations discussed. Stevie second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same side. Motion carries. Bus routes.
Proposed bus routes, they're all attached on a wonderful graphic there. View class, add one stop. Miller, add one stop for sure, still looking at adding a leg or whether that's a stop. The leg would be 7 miles up, 7 miles back. So we could potentially pick up at the starting point of that 7 miles. So if you look at the second graphic, that middle iron one, that little white piece is the added distance to go pick up 4 kids at the end of that route. So we can pick them up at the highway, we can pick that. So that Ridgeway, add one stop, and then Chalk keeps changing the location of the start and stop.
Is there any board discussion? Or do you have anything to add to it, Branson?
Just answer the question before.
Does the transportation, when is it set, the transportation meeting?
I've heard it's usually,
It's not, it has to be before the end of the third week in July.
Okay.
So,
So the one thing I would add to that, just point of clarification, by adding the mill iron route will be based on our discussion month ago maybe. At the board meeting, that route will be a minibus. So trying to make best use out of resources that we have. So changing from an expedition to a
Minibus.
minibus, and then they can haul 16 or.
And you have to have a CDL driver for the
So we have,
minibus.
that's where Mr. Whitney will be driving that road.
Okay.
So,
Is there any board discussion? Public comment? Public comment? Any other discussion or motion?
Move that we accept the new bus routes for 25-26.
I'll second it.
Rena made the motion to approve bus routes as presented for the 25-26 school year. Phoebe seconded the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board comment? Rena made the motion to approve the bus routes as presented for the 25-26 school year. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Second reading of 3510P.
so the only thing I would add to this is I've reached out to some of the wrestling parents in particular, because it was potentially most likely to impact them first. And unless you've gotten direct feedback from them, I have not. So tried to make sure they were very aware that that policy was out there and what the requirements would be to add and use sports. So there it is.
So with adding a sport on page 101, does that mean the last line of number 4? The superintendent and school board holds the final authority to officially sanction a new sport or activity. So both of them have to agree on if there's a New sport added.
Yeah, if they've jumped. If they've made it, and I don't want to say jumped through all the hoops, but if they've had numbers, they've co-op, they've done all those pieces, then it would come to us to send it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a viable option.
Okay. Board discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the second reading and adoption of 3510P.
I'll second the motion. Thebe moved to approve the second reading and adoption of 3510P. Lisa second the motion. Is there any public comment? Comment? Board comment? Phoebe made the motion to approve the second reading and adoption of 3510P. Lisa second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Policy 3410.
So the only piece, yeah, nothing's changing that in terms of the 104, the last page of that last line, adding in there all credits must be taken and completed prior to graduation date in accordance with Carter County High School graduation requirements. So just a point of clarification that they need to have accomplished those credits before graduation.
Is there any discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move to approve policy 2410P as presented.
I second it.
Stefan made the motion to approve policy 2410P as presented. Phoebe seconded the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board comment? Stefan made the motion to approve policy 2410. Phoebe seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Job description.
The last two of a lot of job descriptions we brought forward. So the first, we have Science Olympiad and concession manager. When we pulled the concession out of collective bargaining, so it's an independent position. Looked through all that information, but $20 an hour, those funds will come directly out of managing the concession. They don't come out of the general fund or out. So they're running their own restaurant, if you will. Performance bonus, so we have locked down, so by seasons, by junior high, football, by football season, by volleyball season, we have a baseline for each one of those games, or each one of those seasons, if you will. And so when we hire that person, we will sit down and say, so this is a number, we made $6,000 off concession stand during football, okay? So every $1,000 increment over $1,000, any $1,000 increase over that is $100 bonus for that person. So, the wage is competitive, but the more the concession stand does, the more there's an incentive for that as well. Science Olympiad is just that's a position that's just right now what the expectations for Science Olympiad are.
I should probably.
Is that it? I think she can catch up on this. Please. Were you done sharing?
Watch the video.
Watch the video.
Yeah, tell her.
Yeah.
No, I had a discussion or question, comment, or possible rewording
Okay,
or something. So I didn't know if she.
Yep. most wait a second. I think it's a good idea to put incentive in there for concessions.
That's what I want to talk about.
What?
Okay.
The incentives. That's what I want to wait till Brittany's back.
We'll just stare at her if she walks through the door.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Stefan,
I like the performance bonus idea. I would just change it from revenue to like a percentage of profit. Because if they have the right to set the price, and if they set the price to making just a penny on every sale, then you sell a lot more stuff, and then they can get money back when they're not actually making the school more money, or the athletics department, or whoever's taking money from them. So I would like to see it as percentage of profit versus $100 for $1,000 revenue.
so can you put a percent out for that?
Well, right there, it's
Well, and that's probably worded because setting that goal would be based on we made $6,000.
so instead of just saying, I mean, you could just change instead of revenue to profits. That's how I would word it, as profits versus revenue.
Is there any other board discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Other board comment or motion?
I make a motion to approve the job descriptions as presented with the change of performance bonus being profit instead of revenue.
I second it.
Stefan made the motion to approve the job descriptions as presented, other than the word change, revenue to profit. Rena second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Sorry, my brain's starting to. Stefan made the motion to accept the job descriptions as presented, other than the word change of revenue to profit. All those in favor, Rena second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Lease agreement.
So you guys have the lease agreement in front of you for Kendall Tillman? For the trailer.
And you don't need to save it for any of our foreigners coming in?
And we've checked with them and they're, one, we've already got one in the manor and the other one. It's dangerously too big for, I mean, granted, wouldn't want to take you out, we're renting it to a single person, but you gotta, I mean, if you're trying to maximize your dollar, you're gonna try to take the smallest, least expensive one you can find.
That was the same question I had. Was I have no problem with leasing it to
Yeah.
Kendall. I just didn't know if there was a greater need for it somewhere else, but if there's not really, then. that's
Then
cool.
do we have to do your lease agreement? Because I think that the only thing I saw in there that could be annually was the pet deposit thing. Was that in the
No, I attached it,
papers?
I attached it in his contract because of.
Oh,
what was
I was reading it somewhere.
What was in his contract.
And I even made a note there, but I didn't look at it.
When you're on these agreements though, we typically have had one of the committee members, one of the facility or grounds committee members do the walkthrough in between leases. And so when we go between, he's off it now, he can't do it anymore. If Mr. Cappy wants to do it or Arnold Breeze, we usually have a school person and then a board member. So the last week in July is when the trailer house will be empty between
And then
Montes and
something that it's in these lease agreements that we do a walkthrough May 1st and November 1st.
Right.
And I think that that's something that we just need to put on the calendar and that's the day. And I don't know if I just get together with you to, or I mean, whoever's going to do the walkthrough. I think it's really good to have Greer, Arnold, and somebody else, a board member.
Who took Stephanie's job?
Mike, Phoebe, or David.
So if Mike and David can do that, because they're right here. I won't be here last
Okay,
week.
anyways, but I would like to make a note to just put it on the calendar so it gets done. I don't know, can that just be,
Schedule it right now.
can it just be like in our month meeting things? Can you put that as a reminder?
November meeting and Michelle should be like on our October meeting and our April meeting then, right? To schedule the walkthrough for November 1st and May 1st. Then for the committee to decide who
Oh,
could be here and
yes,
who's gonna do
yes,
the walkthrough.
sorry, yes.
She walks through somebody's house twice a year.
That's what's in the lease agreement.
I don't even go, I have 8 rooms and I couldn't get in some of their houses for years. I pick up the money and. That's their
You may
space.
be surprised.
I won't be, I have great brothers. I have really great brothers.
Just send myself a reminder to add that. I'll just put it on the board calendar.
Public comment. Public comment. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the lease agreement for Kimball Coleman.
I second it.
Phoebe moved to approve the lease agreement for Kendall Kittleman. Rena second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board discussion? Phoebe made the motion to approve the lease agreement for Kendall Kittleman. Rena second the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Transfer of funds.
So we have money still sitting in 150, which is the building fund for the elementary, so it's the leftover from the bond for the elementary. It has to be moved to 161, so the auditor is the one, that's why we have them. That's just the thing with fund balance, and it should have needed to get moved sometime this year since we paid the bond off last year, so the remaining balance from 150 needs to have board approval transfer to be moved to 161 per Montana code.
Is there any board discussion? Board discussion? Any public comment? Public comment? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the transfer funds for 150 and 161.
I second it.
Stefan made the motion to approve the transfer of funds of 150 to 161 for our auditor. Is there any public comment? Phoebe second the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Stefan made the motion to approve the transfer of funds from 150 to 161 per our auditor. Phoebe seconds the motion. All those in favor say aye.
I,
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Opening of Fund 284, so I've also talked to the auditor in regards to the students' extracurricular activities account. He is fine with us just opening one and not one on each side, because that's where we currently have it at Summit. And so in order for me to transfer the money before year end, you need to open Fund 284, which I'll add to your fund cheat sheet for the budget. So that will be all student activities now. So, and I guess looking at that going forward, you guys will have to let me know. If you want it broke out, I can, but you guys have never seen those before. If not, Fund 284 will include music, close-up, FFA, CLA, athletics. I mean, when you look at it, don't just think athletics. It includes all of those things, all your classes. Science is in there. I think there's just money in drama, yearbook. It must be like 12 or 15
Okay.
sub-funds within that. So.
And this is just, never mind.
Anytime we open a new fund, we don't currently have existing, it has to be
Right.
board motion.
Board discussion. Public comment. Public comment. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the opening of Fund 284.
I second it.
Rena made the motion to approve the opening of Fund 284. Phoebe seconded the motion. Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board comment? Rena made the motion to approve the opening of Fund 284. Phoebe seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Policy 3510.
So, point of reference, discussion item, so we're not voting on it, but, so school-sponsored activities, if they are not in our district, and so if a student is in our district, in our county, it doesn't matter. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. This is based on if a student is not currently living in our county, and they are participating in one of our extracurricular activities, what should that actually look like? So this is, it's kind of a gray area across the board. And so if we have a student that is, say, homeschooled, and they participate in sports or FFA or FCCLA, we get prorated funding from the state. So they get 1/16 of the A and B for them. And so we get a chance to, I mean, it basically is covering their costs, buses, all those kind of things, just like, in a way, others, but as part of our county. If a student is not in our county, then A, we do not have to allow them, first and foremost. B, we get nothing. So they are, so in theory, it sounds minor, but if you add 2 more kids to a bus, then they're riding the bus for free. They're staying in a hotel for free. They're doing all of those things. So what should that be is a question we'll bring you. We've had this conversation about to the board thinking, should there be an activity, a set activity for this now? Are we gonna face this a lot? Don't know. I can't say, I'll tell you if we're gonna face it a lot. But I do know currently we're facing it. And so it brought up the question of, A, could we even do it? Could a kid even participate if they're not in our county? You member of FCCLA or FFA or whatnot. So they can, but then we have to kind of think about what that kind of look like.
So does that just include FCCLA and FFA then? Because MHSA covers high school sports. So is there anything else that could go towards?
Well, I mean, it could probably apply to Science Olympiad if you had some sort of testing mechanism. They were choosing a kid like, I want to be on a science Olympiad team. I mean, any of those quote unquote clubs, it could apply to, but primarily we're talking FFA or FCCL.
Can you say how many students right now that would?
And FFA and FCCLA raise their own money for everything except for state and national. What does the school front for money? Because I know with our policy that we did, like, you have to make it, or is it districts, divisionals?
That's still their own funds paying for those meals. They just can't
Okay.
use those funds until they meet those postseasons that you're talking about for the handbook.
Yeah. Like, what do we actually pay for of FCCLA and FFA? I mean, I know,
Advisor-
okay,
their
yeah.
advisor stipends.
And I don't know if it's a good problem or a bad problem, but I'd rather have a discussion before we're
Right.
spacing.
What are we
Why
supposed to
or
do?
what or how.
Imagine those kids live in Rockford, come over.
I mean, it brings up a whole separate question, like in the world of technology, but if you're on, let's say you're in FFA, how are you participating in practices? I mean, how are you doing, what's that falls back on the coach or the advisor, you know, making sure that there's some sort of requirement that we're not, somebody's just joining to join, kind of, you know.
Students are required to raise money too, though, right, to go into it. I know at some point they each had to raise a certain amount of money in order to participate in some of those post activities and be part of the fundraising. I don't think they didn't raise and didn't help, they didn't get to go certain places.
That I don't know.
I'm not positive, I know at one point it used to be that way. I don't know if policies changed or not, but, or not policy, but expectations, I guess you'd say.
Is there any other public comment? Any other board questions?
So did you talk to the FFA and what did they say?
Have we talked to them?
Yeah.
We talked to try to get clarification after the FFA banquet, where literally became an issue at that moment, like, how is this, we have a person not in our county, not, how does this affect an officer? So we just started asking the questions just because we were nervous that, kind of like the lines of sports, like all of a sudden you win something or you do something and they say, yeah, you have to be illegal participant.
So what did our FFA advisor say?
We did not get a definitive answer from him,
He had just contacted the state to make sure that it wasn't allowable, which it is.
just in FFA.
It is allowable.
Well, he got clearance from the state FFA board that wouldn't allow it. So then it came back to AIM and OPI, and I called them and they said they don't have any restrictions on the fact that we can't claim him. So then it just becomes what our policies and procedures are on it. I mean, I'm sure there are some schools that don't allow, period. So it just depends on what we wanna do for our district.
And, you know, one of our county kids is not an officer because somebody that lives over there is an officer, which isn't fair to,
Well, and you can see, like,
I can see that.
good situations and bad situations, you can see where a kid, similar to what's playing out right now, a kid that's lived here, that's living here, is part of ours, built friendships, built all that, they move to a new place. And so then you could also say, well, there's the kid that hates the FFA advisor and, you know, name the town. And they're like, oh, well, I can just join this because I do know that and I want to join theirs. And so, I mean, in the policy or however we want to build it, maybe that's the piece we want. Like, if the kid starts in our FFA program, then they're allowed to continue participating in our, if they leave, or, but do we want to be the, if we're going to be like the shopping center, like any kid can join our FFA, then probably A, want some academic restrictions on it, but there is a financial consideration that has to be huge when we want to, like, not just jump ship because, oh, we hear this one's easier or better or whatever. We want them to, you know, make sure we protect our entity.
And we don't want our whole officer team to be out of county.
Can we think about this?
Yeah, just discussion. It's for you guys to
Just
ponder, think
discussion.
about, and
You
go,
don't
and
have to, you don't have to motion.
ask more questions, and then, we'll bring it back as a policy or whatnot, and then we have 2 readings to revise it and go for it.
Just so you're aware.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Move on to organizing social media accounts.
Organizations.
So in the world of technology, this is a discussion item, so please look through it, and, yeah. I've spent way too much time on this one in a past life, so it's a great starting point for us, truly stolen from another district. It's like David's thunder, I wrote it, I'm borrowing it, it's my policy kind of thing, but.
From
Anyway,
another place.
So social media, having a kind of a laid out as far as what social media district represented social media policy on that. 2 pieces to that policy that need to be considered. Individually, if I am superintendent, teacher, coach, whatever, and I am stating on my social media page that I am a representative of the school and I am politically going off, that's not protected. And so we want to make sure we have, put that so that people know, we all know, like, you can't just run off at the mouth. The other part, the bigger piece is if there is a tool, and we can use a Facebook page, we can use TikTok, we can use Instagram, we can use any of those, that is a representation of a team or organization. So, for example, we have an FFA page, but if you have a basketball page or we have a volleyball page, that there are some basic requirements for that you have multiple, you have an administrative member, you have 3 adults that are 3 different staff members that have access to that page. I can give you a lot of horror stories about it, but I mean, you can make up a couple. I mean, if you end up with a coach or advisor being fired, and they're the only one with access to that, now you're kind of in an interesting pickle with what's being said or what's being done on that. If there's a person that takes the wrong medication at night and goes into some weird thing and starts typing random things, you want to have somebody else be able to go, what is happening, and be able to edit that. And the last piece, just is from a school standpoint, and I mean, I know I'm guilty of that. Like our main Facebook page and whatnot, we have 4 people that have access to that. There's a typo. I mean, life happens and you make a typo, but somebody can grab that page and quickly create it, because grammatically and wise, you don't want to have like the school represented by that. So the policy is just put in place to basically protect the school and make sure everybody knows kind of here's the guidelines that we're trying on. And just make sure that if you're representing yourself, you can knock, if you're representing yourself, or you're doing anything personal, we can have at it. That's you're right. But if you're representing the school, then there's a little bit of oversight to protect the school.
Does anybody have any questions? Is there any public comment? Public comment? Board discussion? Consent? Agenda?
I don't think there's anything too special. There are no cash budget sheets because it's so early in the month. I don't get those back from Jesse, so usually they're 4th. Everything else is there as far as the expenses. I will start moving some money to make sure we capitalize all of our general fund dollars, so those will be as close to 100% spent by June 30th as I can get them. So it'll probably still look interesting on July, because a lot of those adjustments don't go through on this report, but I will adjust it down to the penny, so we don't get any high fives for saving money in the general fund.
That's what he's.
Are we compensating whoever's volunteering to mow? Or not mow if the lawnmower's broken?
Well, it's kind of an interesting conundrum. I wish I would have paid more attention to being a mechanic, as my dad was a mechanic and that, but, no, because, I mean, at this point, we're not mowing. We're waiting to hay and collect some bales. No,
Because the
we
lawnmower.
need a lawnmower.
Okay.
We have, one is totally out of service and the other one is needs belts and different things and it's not. So when that happens, I actually enjoy mowing very much so. So I would love to drive around on the tractor and mow whatever. I just enjoy doing it. So
You just can't fix it.
I fix
You
it.
need
Is-
to- you need to
are we-
decide.
When is this lawnmower purchase being decided? Or what do you-
We've looked at a couple of sheet budgets, I got a couple brands, we're gonna reach out and see how fast they can get us one, and then we'll probably, because it'll most likely be $5,000. And if it's below that, then we won't have it, but if it is, we'll have a special phone meeting to approve that. So sooner than later.
I just didn't know if we needed to find somebody to mow
Well,
or.
I mean, I reached out to the local mowers, and they
Yeah.
were swamped. And
Okay, I
and
can
that's
wonder.
that's the first thought I thought.
I mean, I'd offer, but my
I
mower
heard they
really
had
sucks.
like 33.
Bring in a spot. The good
Oh.
news is, we did want the yard, we did want all the grounds to go to seed. That's good for the grass and it's actually good for the water bill as well, but we're to the point that it's gone to seed. So
Why don't you want it to go to seed?
you do want it to go to seed.
Oh, I was like,
Because in the
I thought you
golf
said you don't. I'm
No,
like,
no.
why not?
No, we're past that point.
Yeah, gotcha. I noticed when I walked over to the events and it's a little.
Yeah.
What's a dash cam for?
The bus.
The bus,
Okay,
So back to that one, we had
I
the
took pictures of them the whole way.
broken window on the activity bus. We had, I mean, if we would have had a dash cam, we probably could have had that paid for. Because if it's,
but it wasn't paid for because you had a dash cam?
because you can't necessarily lock down who it was.
Yeah.
But your insurance doesn't cover it?
It's more than that. Our claim is more, our deductible is more than,
I see what you're saying. I see
so
what
then
you're,
you
yep,
have to,
okay.
every incident has to meet your deductible or for it to be paid. But we haven't met, an incident hasn't met a deductible.
And is a 55-inch class crystal a TV? Or what is that?
Yeah.
Let's do the TV.
It's gotta be.
Samsung 50?
Yeah.
Which one do you want, yeah?
Class crystal,
What's the
fancy
brand?
name.
okay. That's all the questions I have. Is there any discussion, public comment?
I could come tomorrow with my riding lawnmower if you really need me
I'll let you take it up with the office.
to. I had no idea you guys were having a problem.
That's right. You know,
That's, I'm not, yeah, I turned into a bad thing.
Yeah.
The
not
rain's a
doing
good thing,
tomorrow.
but,
Spiral quickly.
right?
We'll get out of this
Usually
meeting and
two
you
around.
can discuss it with them.
Okay,
I
had no clue.
Where am I at? Public comment.
You're
No,
on
yeah,
consent
There's
you're
a
right.
agenda.
You're
motion, whatever.
Consent.
Let's roll.
It's Stefan's job.
Sure,
We're
sure.
not.
No,
Not
we're
consent
not.
agenda still.
This is consent.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Our lawyers do that.
Because I got an hour, well, you all almost do too.
Phoebe made the motion to
Who's second?
approve the consent agenda. Rena seconded the motion. Public comment. Public comment? Board discussion? Phoebe made the motion to approve the consent agenda. Rena seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
I
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
moved to adjourn.
Is there a second?
You have what you need there.
Yeah, you need a second, right?
Nope, with
Oh
no
my
further,
God.
with no further
No.
business, the meeting is adjourned.
That's all you need.
No further business. Meeting is adjourned.
thought your room was open. I've got to go get
I
it pulled
swear
off
I
the table.
can't get that stick in my head for